All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We got to talk about Senator Tim Scott, who went on The View and absolutely let Sunny Hostin have it. He went in on Sunny Hostin when she asked him a question. Now, before we get into all of that, though, I do want to kind of go back in the past, do a little flashback to a couple weeks ago when Tim Scott announced that he was running for president. And I think it's funny that when Tim Scott recently went on The View, they didn't have Joy Behar on the panel. They excluded her from the panel, and it's probably because she had this to say. Let's roll the clip.
So he is not pro-choice, and he's one of these guys who, you know, he's like Clarence Thomas, black Republican who believes in pulling yourself by your bootstraps, rather than, to me, understanding the systemic racism that African Americans face in this country and other minorities. He doesn't get it, neither does Clarence.
Right.
And that's why they're Republicans.
Yeah. I know.
All right, guys, so you heard that. I'm assuming that's why they didn't want Joy Behar on the panel when Tim Scott was there as a guest, because then she would have had to answer for those ridiculous comments she just made, and she probably would have made a fool of herself. The nerve of this, you know, this white liberal woman to tell a black guy who's lived his whole life being a black person that he doesn't understand, you know, what it means to be black in America. He doesn't understand systemic racism and blah, blah, blah. She doesn't realize how much of a fool she sounds like saying this. And notice as well on the panel, you know, Whoopi's laughing, Sarah laughing, I don't know, maybe even Alyssa Farrah Griffin laughing. Sunny Hostin's like, yeah, Joy Behar's right. She's right. I don't like black conservatives. I don't like black Republicans because I'm a Democrat. You know, that just goes to show you how biased these shows are. You know, it's not enough pushback to ridiculous claims like that. If it was a real balanced panel with, you know, a couple conservative women who can really like back up and you know, refute some of these claims that are being made, The View might actually be a decent show. But it's completely partisan, you know. But with that out the way, we went back in the past. Let's take a look at Tim Scott absolutely letting Sunny Hostin have it. We're about to get into this. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe while we're watching. Now let's roll the clip.
I'm the exception, right? You're the exception. Maybe even Miss Whoopi Goldberg is the exception.
Oh, she's definitely the exception.
But we are not the rule. And so when it comes to racial inequality, it persists in 5 core aspects of life in the U.S. Economics, education, healthcare, criminal justice, and housing. At nearly every turn, these achievements were fought, threatened, and erased, most often by white violence. You have indicated that you don't believe in systemic racism. What is your definition of systemic racism?
Let me answer the question that you've answered.
Or does it even exist in your mind?
Let me answer the question this way. One of the things I think about, and one of the reasons why I'm on the show, is because
I just want to say real quick, notice how that tone changed a little bit. Notice how that tone changed from the clip. From the clip we saw, I think she's still being a little condescending. You know, Sunny Hostin just kind of has that, you know, she bugs me out a little bit. She does this thing where, you know, she like talks down to people. She talks slow and she talks down to people. And I don't like that. You know, that's, yeah, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But, you know, she humbled herself a little bit being in the presence of Tim Scott, you know, and she ain't got nothing crazy to say while he's actually there in person, when he pulled up with all the smoke. But let's keep it going.
One of the reasons why I'm on the show is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. I will tell you that if my life is the exception, I can't imagine.
But it is.
But it's not, actually. It's
been 114 years.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is we've had an African-American president, African-American vice president. We've had 2 African-Americans to be secretaries of the state. In my home city, the police chief is an African-American who's now running for mayor. The head of the highway patrol for South Carolina is an African-American.
Still exceptions.
In 1975, there was about 15% employment in the African-American community. For the first time in the history of the country, it's under 5%.
40% homelessness
And 50%
of
of
African Americans,
50% of the folks in our community
yet 13% of the
You had the
population.
chance to ask the question. I know that I've watched you on the show that you like people to be deferential and respectful, so I'm going to do the
That
same
is
thing.
true.
So here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest the fact of the matter is that progress in America is palpable. It can be measured in generations. I look back at the fact that my grandfather, born in 1921 in Sally, South Carolina, when he was on a sidewalk, a white person was coming, he had to step off and not make eye contact. That man believed then, with some doubt now, in the goodness of America, because he believed that having faith in God, faith in himself, and faith in what the future could hold for his kids would unleash opportunities in ways that you cannot imagine. Every kid today can look, just change the stations and see how much progress has been made in this country. ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, CNN, Fox News all have African American and Hispanic hosts. So
I told you guys, he's cooking. He is letting her have it right now. And look at this, look at the smirk on her face. She can't do nothing but sit back and just take these verbal blows that's being thrown at her right now. Because right now, Tim Scott, he just cooking. He cooking with hot grease. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, this right here is the type of messaging to the black community that we need to see more of, and less of this victim stuff, less of this victimhood. We've been hearing, and you know, the black community at large has had victimhood peddled to us for long enough. It's not working. If you want change, people have to know that they can become exceptional, and that being exceptional and doing exceptional things can become a rule of thumb. Exception needs to be a standard. Being exceptional needs to be something that is required of all of us, to be honest. And I think that would be, we would be in a much better state as a country, as a nation, if we pushed more exceptionalism and stopped with the victim stuff, stopped with the math is racist. We stopped with the getting rid of these scores and that scores and lower standards for these people and higher for this people. This is those things that I just listed are part of the problem, and it's part of the reason why, you know, intellectually, financially, you know, the African American community is behind the eight ball, and that's part of the reason why expectations are lower for black folks. It really grinds my gears when I see people who are, you know, rich, successful on TV. They made it. They doing good for themselves. They're doing really good for themselves. It really does grind my gears when I see people like that, and the only thing that they have to tell to other people, you know, black people, is that, you know, life ain't fair. Life is hard. You know, America's racist. Why don't you preach a prosperous message to your people, to the people that look like you? Why don't you tell them some of the steps that you took to be where you're at? And let's not act like we as a community don't do things that negatively impact us. Why do we act like we don't do things that negatively impact us? Let's just call a spade a spade. I'm going to let Tim Scott finish up, but I got to bring up something that's relevant to the conversation. So I was on the phone with a good friend of mine who's black. We spoke for a couple of hours about a wide range of topics, one of those topics being the black community and black culture. And it's nice when you speak to real people about this, you know, in your personal life, because you can have real discussions. You know, you can get to a place of truth speaking honestly, you know, as opposed to speaking to ABC figurehead like Sonny Holston. But one of the things that we both agreed upon, and might I, you know, just throw this out there. My friend is not a conservative. He's not like me. You know, he's not an identified conservative. No, that's not how he rocks. But we can both agree on things, right? So one of the things we both agreed upon is that there is a problem with who young black youth idolize and what young black youth wants to be when they grow up. You know, the sky is really the limit in 2023. It's so many things that you can do. So many things that you could do. It seems like so many young black kids, want to be rappers, ball players. Unfortunately, some want to, do crime, do illegal things, sell drugs, rob, steal, whatever. That's not exclusive to black folks. There's people of all colors doing that, but you got to add that in the mix. It's a part of the percentage. But yeah, I mean, they don't understand that you can be other things. You could go into the trades. You could be an electrician. You could be a carpenter. You could be a pipe fitter. You could be, you could do landscaping. You could have your own business. You could be an entrepreneur, a entrepreneur that don't get thrown in jail. You could trade stocks. You could, man, the sky is really the limit. And what I like about Tim Scott is it seems like he is preaching that rather than preaching victimhood. So you got to pair two things. Pair black youth not knowing the possibilities of what they can actually achieve in the world. Pair that with the fact that you got people like Sonny Holston and the pro-black liberals who constantly preaching narrative of victimhood and systemic racism, and we live in a country where you can't succeed and you can't get ahead and blah blah blah. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna see a lot of negative outcomes. But the reality is like I said, the sky is the limit, and we have to do better at letting the young and up and coming generation know that there's a lot that you could be if you just put your mind to it. The stats show that kids who get an education, people who get an education tend to make more money. So hey, if you don't go to college, get a trade. If you don't get a trade, start from young. Building your own business. It's certificate programs. It's just so much that you could do nowadays. And, I just think in 2023, the time is now to preach possibility and hard work and, staying on track and staying on task and staying out of trouble. The time is to preach that rather than preaching victimhood if we want to actually see more changes. But like Tim Scott said, a lot actually has changed. And we need to acknowledge that things have changed and we are not living in the Jim Crow South still. It's 2023. But let me continue.
What I'm suggesting is that the yesterday's exception is today's rule. And for us to
so
suggest...
America has met its promise.
No, of course, the concept of America is that we are going to become a more perfect union. But in fact, the challenges that we face 50 years ago and 60 years ago should not be the same challenges that we face today. And here's the way that you measure that. When my mother was born, about 10% of African Americans got a high school degree, diploma. Today, it's over 90%. When you look at the income success that we've had.
That's an HBCU stat.
Well, listen, HBCU stat is a good one because one of the reasons why I took the funding for HBCUs to the highest level in the history of the country and then I helped make it permanent is because I believe that education is the closest thing to magic in America. So I'm about making sure that our kids have as many opportunities to succeed as possible. It's one of the reasons why.
I need an opportunity to succeed because I have to go to. They're begging.
We have more time, though.
They're begging. You're coming.
I'm just getting started.
Yeah, that's right. Y'all better stop him. Y'all better stop him because he's cooking. So like I said in the intro, he absolutely went off. He went off on Sonny, and she had her little preloaded questions that she asked, but she really didn't have much to say to combat, a lot of the stuff that he was saying and a lot of the points that he was making, but he makes a lot of sense. When we see something wrong happening to not just a black person, but to anybody, yes, we need to call it out and, admit that something wrong has happened. Something wrong is going on. Somebody was treated wrongly or unfairly. Call a spade when you see it. But because of the victim narrative that has been implemented into black people's brains and, into a lot of people's brains nowadays, everybody's a victim of something. You just got so many people crying wolf, and the potency of these cries has went away. It's really went away, and a lot of people, bro, we just tired of it. You know, we tired of it. We tired of the crying. We tired of the whining. We tired of blaming the past on everything that goes on today. I understand that there's a history, and the history kind of shows you your history shows you how you got to the present. But in this present day, I think the best way forward is to be honest and analyze, examine, and see what practices, what are you doing on a daily basis, as a black person, as a whatever person. I don't care if you white. What I'm about to say can be used on any person. It's not just a black person. Look at what you do on a day-to-day basis and see, is it conducive to you being successful? Is it conducive to you, climbing out of whatever hole that it is you in? If you behind the 8 ball, are you doing what you need to be doing? Are you doing the right things to get ahead? Look at what successful people are doing. Implement those things into your life. It's a blueprint. There are blueprints, multiple blueprints to success, and we need to implement those things in our lives. Implement the blueprints of success, but know that there are also blueprints to failure, and stay away from those things. But shout out to Tim Scott. He went on a View and did his thing, dropped bombs. I really wish Joy Behar would have been on the panel. That would have been so nice. That would have been so nice to see what he would have had to say to her and to see how she would have tried to skate around the things that she said. But that's all I got for you guys. Please let me know what you thought about this in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on your way out the door. And until next time, you guys, I'm out of here. Peace.